Jake Paul has just agreed to the most dangerous and most lucrative fight of his entire career. On December 19, 2025, he will step into the ring. Not against a former MMA fighter. Not against a retired legend like Mike Tyson. But against Anthony Joshua, a two-time unified heavyweight champion who has dominated the sport at its highest level, and the numbers behind this fight are just as shocking as the matchup itself. A total purse of $184 million, split evenly between the two fighters. That's $92 million each. The biggest payday in boxing for 2025. But how did we get here? And more importantly, does this fight actually make sense? To understand the full picture, we need to go back to where this all started. Jake Paul was originally scheduled to face WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Tank Davis in a highly anticipated exhibition bout set at 195 pounds. It was already an unusual matchup, two fighters from completely different weight classes, different styles, and different boxing backgrounds. But it had one thing going for it, massive attention. However, everything changed on November 3, 2025. The fight was suddenly cancelled after Davis became involved in a legal situation that included multiple serious allegations. With the event falling apart, Jake Paul was left without an opponent and without a main event. At that point, most fighters would look for a replacement within a similar weight range. Someone manageable. Someone realistic. Jake Paul did the opposite. Instead of moving laterally, he moved upward dramatically. From a 195-pound exhibition bout to a full professional heavyweight contest against a man who weighs around 250 pounds. That's nearly a 50-pound difference, and not just any heavyweight. Anthony Joshua is one of the most accomplished fighters of his generation. This isn't a crossover bout. This isn't entertainment-first matchmaking. This is a legitimate, elite-level heavyweight clash. Anthony Joshua brings with him more than a decade of professional experience. He has gone through over 160 rounds in the ring, built a record of 28 wins with 25 knockouts, and faced some of the toughest competition in modern boxing. He's fought champions. He's headlined global events. He's carried the heavyweight division on his shoulders. Jake Paul, on the other hand, began his boxing journey in 2020. In just a few years, he has completed around 70 professional rounds, securing 12 wins with 7 knockouts. The contrast couldn't be more clear. One fighter built his career through championships, rankings, and elite competition. The other built his through viral moments, pay-per-view success, and the ability to generate global attention. And yet, despite those differences, both men have arrived at the same point, standing across from each other in what could become one of the most talked about fights in recent history. But to truly understand this matchup, you have to look beyond just the records. You have to look at how Jake Paul turned boxing into a financial empire. Jake Paul didn't enter boxing in the traditional way. He didn't climb amateur rankings or spend years developing quietly. Instead, he leveraged his existing platform and turned every fight into a spectacle. His 2020 knockout of Nate Robinson earned him $1.2 million, a massive number for someone in only his early fights. By 2021, he had already generated $40 million in a single year from boxing alone. That's not just success, that's disruption. Then came one of the biggest moments of his career. In November 2024, Jake Paul faced Mike Tyson in a Netflix live event that drew over 100 million viewers worldwide. It wasn't just a fight, it was a global broadcast phenomenon. And financially, it delivered. Another $40 million added to Paul's growing earnings. At that point, it became clear, Jake Paul wasn't just participating in boxing. He was reshaping how boxing events were marketed and consumed. But while Jake Paul was building a new model, Anthony Joshua had already established himself as one of the sport's biggest financial stars. Joshua's resume doesn't just include wins, it includes massive paydays, $60 million for his rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr., over $40 million for his fights with Alexander Usyk. Around $50 million for his bout against Francis Ngannou. In total, Joshua has generated more than $275 million throughout his career, with an estimated net worth of $150 million. 4 years, he has been one of boxing's most reliable draws, a fighter who combines skill, power, and global appeal. And interestingly, Joshua wasn't even planning to step back into the ring until 2026. He had already achieved financial stability. He had already built his legacy, but then came the offer, $92 million. That number changes everything. Even for a fighter at Joshua's level, a payday like that is impossible to ignore. So now, What we're looking at isn't just a fight, it's a collision between two completely different approaches to boxing. On one side, you have tradition, experience, proven dominance. On the other, you have innovation, marketing power, and a fighter who has consistently defied expectations. But here's where things get complicated: the physical differences between these two fighters are significant. Joshua is taller. He's naturally heavier. He has spent years conditioning his body for heavyweight competition. Jake Paul, even at his best, is stepping into unfamiliar territory. Moving up in weight is one thing, but moving into the heavyweight division against an elite opponent is something entirely different. There are serious risks involved. Can Jake handle the power of a true heavyweight? Can he maintain endurance against a fighter who is used to longer, more physically demanding bouts? And perhaps most importantly, can his skill level hold up under that kind of pressure? At the same time, this fight isn't entirely one-sided. Jake Paul has shown consistent improvement over the years. His technique has evolved. His confidence has grown. And his ability to perform under massive spotlight is already proven. He thrives in high-pressure situations. He understands how to control the narrative. And he has built a career on exceeding expectations. So while the odds may seem heavily in Joshua's favor, the unpredictability of this matchup is what makes it so compelling, because if Jake Paul manages to truly compete, with Anthony Joshua, it could change how people view him permanently, and if he somehow pulls off the unthinkable, it wouldn't just be an upset. It would be one of the most shocking moments in boxing history. But on the flip side, the danger is very real. Anthony Joshua is not a forgiving opponent. He has the power to end fights quickly. He has the experience to control distance, pace, and timing. And if Jake makes a mistake, Joshua has the ability to capitalize instantly. This raises an important question: is this a calculated risk or a step too far? Jake Paul has built his career carefully, choosing opponents that allowed him to grow while still maintaining control over the outcome. This time, that control may not exist, and for Joshua, there's also something at stake. While he stands to gain financially, there is reputational risk. Losing, or even struggling, against someone with Jake Paul's background could impact how his legacy is perceived. So for both fighters, this isn't just about money. It's about credibility. As the date approaches, the anticipation will only grow. Fans, critics, and analysts will all be asking the same questions. Can Jake Paul bridge the gap between entertainment and elite sport? Can Anthony Joshua prove that experience and skill still define boxing at the highest level? On December 19, 2025, we won't just get answers, we'll witness a moment that could redefine expectations in modern boxing. Two fighters. Two completely different paths. One ring, and when the bell rings, there will be nowhere to hide, because in the end, beyond the money, beyond the hype, beyond the headlines, only one question truly matters: does Jake Paul actually stand a chance?